when you look at companies, you're looking for companies that are involved in the vaccine or the world around it. But even before that, all those environmental factors that are changing the world, and that there are now, I guess, the United Nations has sustainable development goals. They have 12 specific areas they're encouraging countries within the United Nations to focus on. How are these guidelines almost impacting the way companies are changing to become more sustainable?
I think the sustainable development goals have been a great tool for I think coalescing activity across the scale really of the economy and society and the political spectrum as well. So at their the genesis of the Sustainable Development Goals, they are UN goals, they're societal goals, they're goals for governments, and so then I think some people sometimes forget they're not an investment framework. They're not set up to be an investment framework. In fact, we don't directly set ourselves up to be an SDG fund, but the SDGs are clearly everywhere around everything that we do because we're focused around sustainability. We use 9 investment themes, which we set out with in the early 2000s, 10 to 15 years before the Sustainable Development Goals came in 2015. And there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Some of them match and relate to our investment themes. So we show to our investors when we show on our impact microsite, we show how our investments directly contribute towards 7 of the 17 SDGs. But a number of the others relate less to investable markets, but more to how companies are run. And so they can be so the Sustainable Development Goals have been something of a rallying tool in investment markets. I think sometimes in not a totally aligned way, because I think they are somewhat open to being to interpretation, sometimes misinterpretation.
Are there other companies? Are most companies trying to adapt these sustainable goals? Because I know even in Australia, there's a lot of the mining companies are trying to implement some of these goals within their company, but they produce iron ore.
Yeah. I think they can be used in a multitude of different ways. That's what I mean. Really, is they're kind of open to interpretation. They're open to use. They're open to. Well, I want to say they're open to misuse. I think they can be open to misuse in marketing sometimes. But to the extent to which, but to the extent to which they can be used as a sort of framework and a tool for people to organize their thinking and organize activity, then that's great. That's they can be very useful. So even clearly we only invest in companies where the product and services is a solution. So mining companies are really tend to be outside our investable universe. They're not the kind of thing that we're interested in. But still, across the sort of spectrum of corporate activity, if companies adjust the way that they behave using the SDGs as a framework, then that's no bad thing. Sometimes that can be a defensive kind of approach in terms of sort of trying to make sure that their business is still fit for purpose, even if their product and service isn't actually directly contributing towards the solution. And at another level, they are a tool for policymakers and governments to sort of set policy, set regulation, and set frameworks within which markets and companies operate. So they're used at a range of different ways. And I think the great thing is having something that is very visible and very easily recognized, and the sort of and the more that people that they're used is a great thing, because it's developing recognition, and that can be on its own a sort of a call to arms and a call to action.